Okay, so today we're going to build a personal AI agent and actually take it pretty much step by step. There's a couple of things that I'm going to skip because it's a little tedious and it would get boring. But honestly, once we go through this and if you follow along, you'll pretty much be able to build any kind of agent that you want because you'll know, at least the way that we build them, right? You'll know the functions, the integrations, the tools, the components that go into building an agent. And not only that, but probably most importantly, the mindset, right? The strategy and how we do it, right? So we're going to build a personal agent, and the tools that it's going to have are email, calendar, Google Drive. It's going to be able to update the database, and it'll have access to a database. So technically, the Pinecone database itself is a tool, right? The vector database. So it's going to have those 5 tools, right? And the updated the database is going to basically just allow it to add information into that database like manually, like allow the user to do that, right? The resources that we're going to need are n8n, obviously, Pinecone for the vector database, OpenAI's API model. That's the one that we use. Obviously, you can use whatever one that you want. And then we're going to connect it to Telegram, pretty much because it's like the easiest, I think, to just like spin up. You could obviously put this into Slack, Discord. You could give it its own email address essentially and have like a webhook trigger whenever an email comes in, from that address or to that address. You could probably hook it up to SMS as well, WhatsApp, Facebook. So you can obviously port this into any kind of communication channel, but I'm going to do Telegram today. And so let's get into it. So the first step is to collect your data. And I already did this part because it is time consuming and sometimes it can take days to run. But I basically just had it extract a bunch of contacts from my email and calendar. And all it is just like a name, email address, and like the company they work for. So we have it here on this doc, blacked out the emails. But essentially, you want to collect all of your data first. So in this case, we're collecting contacts data. We don't need that much information, but that'll get the job done. Like essentially, like I don't want to type in the person that I'm emailing. I don't want to type in their email address every time, right? So we use the database to have the agent like just pull the email address when needed, right? So step 1 is collect your data. This one does take a bunch of time, and this is the one that I skipped in this video because obviously, like there's no point. You guys can figure that out essentially. The next step is create your database and upsert the data. So we're going to go into Pinecone, and I'm already logged in, but essentially just log in, create an account if you don't have one, log in. You're going to want to create an index, name it something, right? I'm just going to call it data. You're going to set up the model. We do small, and then I'm sure you can fiddle around with all of this, but we're not going to. So I guess I have to upgrade because I'm on the starter plan. So whatever. I have this database already set up. That's all you would be doing, right? It's just creating the index and then just like hit like submit or set up, and it'll create the database. That's all you need, right? And then grab your API key if you haven't done that already or know to do that. Okay, super simple. Step 1 and 2 done. Step 3. So I put step 3 here with asterisks because in this scenario, we don't necessarily need data capture automations because like there's not a lot of data that's like necessarily coming in and out of this personal agent. And it also takes a little bit of time, and it really depends on what your use case is if you're going to collect the data, right? So like we used to say, like, and we still do, where we want to create a hive mind for the agents where it has all of your data vectorized in a vector database, right? Or embedded in a vector database. And we still do that. But when it comes to like the agents actually performing and doing tasks, we would much rather prefer that the agent pull the data from the original data source, like where it lives. So if it lives in Google Drive, or it lives in the email, or if it lives in your calendar, wherever, we would rather pull the data from there than a vector database. And that's simply for accuracy reasons, right? Like, there's a bunch of chunking methods and batching methods that you could do to improve your results, right? But a lot of times we need like an exact answer, and We could do it, right? But like there's still, that off chance that it might be, wrong, right? And we don't want it to be wrong. The whole point of this is for it to be reliable, right? So I say that to say, like, we don't always need to do the data capture thing if you don't have to. Like, if you just want to get the job done and you don't want to create kind of like this master database, you don't have to do this. Like, it's not necessary, right, to build one. And I kind of just want to get into the building stuff anyway. So step 4, build your tools. So now here's the fun part. I'm basically going to build this from scratch, most of it at least. And I'm only going to give it a couple of different tools. I'm not going to go crazy. But you'll see, like, once you build one tool, you'll see like what the flow is like, right? So I'm basically going to have it send email. I'm going to have it create a calendar event. I'm going to have it grab a Google Drive doc, or just grab a document from Google Drive, and I'm going to have it add stuff to the database if needed, right? So let's start from scratch. Okay, so we're doing a send an email tool. And the way that we do it, at least our philosophy, our method, is we want to give the agent access to the platform, not just like, this agent sends email, so all we do is like give it send email. No, we would rather give it every action that's possible within an email, within an inbox, and then the agent can decide like what needs to be done, right? That's how we go about it. But in this, like, for this video, I'm not going to do every single action, but you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So if I were to grab like a Gmail node, let's do send message. If I'm going to grab this node, you can see that there are different options and parameters here. So I always do this, turn that off, because it says like it was sent by n8n, and I don't necessarily want that. I add BCC, I add CC, sender name, and I don't touch any of that. We make all of these expressions. Boom. Boom. Actually, for now, we probably don't need to do that. Obviously, add your credentials, which I'll do that in a second. But for now, we want to do this, right? And so what we do literally is just like copy this, Command-C, copy. And you can see I've already been working on it. And we're just going to throw it in here in ChatGPT. And we're going to say, yeah, this thing's getting pretty annoying. I'm going to move it over here. We're going to say, so you see how we have the parameters here? This is what we're looking for. We also need the two. We need to subject and message. So let me just make sure that it knows that. Oh shoot. Let's get that in there. Sorry. Just filling around. Okay. Now I'm going to say, actually, let me delete some of this. Actually, list out the parameters, include to address, subject, and message. So it should give me the parameters here. All right, I just had to refresh. I'm going to regenerate. I don't know if you guys have noticed, seems like ChatGPT has been pretty slow recently. Okay, so it's still going, but this is perfect. This is all we need right here. We're going to grab these parameters. I'm going to say, put these parameters in a query field, stringify the list of parameters. Make sure there are no objects, only strings. Boom. Okay, so this should give us what we're looking for. We're essentially what we're doing is we want the agent to output the exact JSON parameters that we need to implement or to add to the send message node, right? And so this is what we're looking for right here. So I'm going to copy that. This will make sense in a second. I'm going to come back. I'm actually going to get rid of that and do a when called by another workflow. And then here I'm going to pin this output. So this is what we're looking for, this output, right? I'm going to save it. Boom. So this allows us to kind of do some testing without having to, go to the agent workflow and then call this to trigger it, right? Like we can just kind of pull it. You'll see what I'm saying. So you see how that query is there? Makes it super easy. So obviously, like if I were to pull this query here, we can't use it, right? It's unusable at this point. It's just like one string. So what I do is I use an AI node. I know you can use a code node, and we use those sometimes, but the AI nodes just get the job done a lot easier. And it's part of the benefit of using AI these days is like you can realistically like basically the benefit of using an AI node is that like you could just tell it what to do and it'll do it, like obviously duh. But like you can use it in like by replacing like a code node or a function node or an aggregator node or a concatenation node or any kind of node that is simply there to manipulate and change and reformat data. You can pretty much replace with an AI node, right? Which is what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and go into ChatGPT or into OpenAI and add an API key here. I imagine you guys know how to do that. So what I'm going to do is just pause really quick, grab an API key, and then come back. Okay, so we're back. Just put that in there. Boom. And we should be good to go. Awesome. I'm just going to rename this really quick just so we keep it all straight. Cool. Okay, so we are going to do GB240. And then I'm simply just going to say parse the query and output the parameters separately. I'm going to make that a system prompt. I don't think it actually matters, but I like to throw that in there. And something you have to do with these AI nodes, especially when it gets passed through like a tool, is like if I were to test this right now, like output it content as JSON, it probably would work, right? But what you notice is like you see how it outputted it separately here. But what you notice when you start connecting these to agents is it's like, oh, this was an object and we were expecting a string, right? So like simply just put JSON in all caps, stringify, open parentheses, and close the parentheses at the end, and that'll fix your problem. Like if you're running into it where it's like, oh, okay, like the tool didn't work because it couldn't, it was expecting a string and it got an object, it's because you need to stringify the query. I imagine some of you guys are probably running into that issue because I ran into it myself. So it's going to give us the same result here in this little test, but realistically, when we're going live, it's not going to work. Okay, so back into the Gmail node, we're just going to drag over these expressions to subject. There's obviously no data. I always do text. It's never made sense to do HTML for us. This right here, this list is going to be, it's going to create a list because I told it to. At least I'm pretty sure it will. Like it'll create a stringified list of these instead of like nested, like a nested list. I'm just gonna say Devin, make it fixed. But I could drag sender name over there, but it doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm gonna go and do the credentials for Gmail really quick. And I'll get back. Okay. It takes a little time. You can see these instructions here. Like just follow the instructions. You'll get what you need. If you don't know how to do this, just follow the instructions right here. You'll get it. Like it's just get your client ID and client secret. It doesn't take too long, but I'm going to go ahead and go do that. And then I'll come back. Okay. Just grabbed it. Now you just need to sign in with Google. Sometimes like this little button here to like sign in with Google doesn't show up. It's just a blank white space. It's still there. So like hover over your mouse and you'll still be able to click on it. Maybe they fixed that bug, but it was a bug earlier on that I was confused for way too long for like why it wasn't working. Okay, cool. So email account is connected. Beautiful. I'm just gonna rename this. Just keep everything organized. Boom, saved. Awesome. Okay, so we have all of our data entered in here. Looks great. Cool. Last thing we need to do for this tool is add a response field. So so the agent itself, right? It's going to get my chat message, say, hey, send an email to Andrew. And it's going to say, okay, I got to send an email to Andrew. Let me use the send email tool. So it's going to send that like query with all the parameters. It's going to send that over. The OpenAI node is going to parse that. And then the Gmail node is going to send the message. But then there needs to be another response that tells the agent that the job was done, right? So we just do response. It has to be response. I mean, I guess it could be whatever you want, but you'll see when we do the agent in a second. So, but we're going to do response, and then I'm just going to say sent. So it's basically just telling the agent, hey, that email was sent. Good to go, right? Cool. So that's it. I mean, this right here is a send email tool. Like, it's super, super simple. And if you're watching my earlier videos, you saw like my email actions tool was like super robust. There were so many different nodes flying around everywhere, a switch, many different AI nodes. And what I was looking for was like a more efficient way of doing the tools themselves. And we figured out when I get into the agent part that you really have to define the input or the output that the agent is sending to the tool. Because when you do that, then you can use that data to then go and do the tool. So like, let me just get into it instead of just rambling. So step 4, build your tools. I guess we have a couple other tools to build, right? Calendar. Okay, let's do calendar really quick. So that's send email. Let's do calendar. So same thing, add a trigger. It's going to be when called by another workflow. I'm not going to do anything there yet. We are going to need an OpenAI node, most likely. So I'm just going to get it. GPT-4o. Parse the query and output the parameters separately. Boom. System. Output is JSON. We're going to need to have this query here. So let me just first go and I'm going to add a calendar. Create an event. Additional fields, attendees. Oh. So this one's weird because you might have to actually we'll test it later. But what I was going to say is like if we can only really input like strings, right? And so like if we have like multiple attendees, can we fit multiple attendees in this one like attendee thing? I'm not sure. Haven't actually tried it. Oh my God. Okay. Let me do this credential thing again. And then I'll be back with you. All right. So we should be good to go. Cool. Again, we are going to rename it. Save. Beautiful. Okay. Nice and easy. We're going to do my calendar. Expression. Sure. And we're going to add these fields here. What do we need? We can do summary. That's going to be the title, right? The title of the event. We also need, I mean, there's options here for you, but description. I think this is all we need just to kind of show how it's going, right? We have start, end, attendees, description, and summary. Beautiful. Okay, so same thing, right? Copy it, take it back into ChatGPT, and Okay, I'm going to just grab these parameters right here and say, well, what did I say up here? Okay, I'm just going to put this in here and copy this. I'm going to try to create a GPT that just does this for me because I'm doing it a lot, right? Like if I'm doing HubSpot, it's like so many different HubSpot actions that you could take, right? And so what I want to do is like create a HubSpot agent, that can do anything in HubSpot, or a Trello agent that can do anything in Trello, right? Just because we give it all the possible like actions that it could take inside of n8n. I think that'll work. Like I think that's a viable like approach, but we'll see. Cool. So basically what I did was I took the query thing that ChatGPT outputted, right? This little string here. Like we need the start date, we need the end date, we need the attendees, we need the description, we need the summary, and actually attendees right here is showing as an object. So what we need to do is make attendees a list, a stringify list. So hopefully that'll fix the problem here. Okay, cool. It's giving me an example, which is what I needed. Okay, perfect. All right, copy that. Take it back. We're going to replace this because that's not going to work. Boom. Awesome. Okay. So test it. We're going to get it over into this node here, drag that in, and then we are going to stringify, open, close, boom. Awesome. Test it. There we go. Although this is not what we're looking for exactly, because attendees needs to be like a comma separated list. So let me say this for the attendees parameter, make it a stringified list that is comma separated. Okay, let's see if that worked. There we go. Perfect. See how it's got a comma here? That's what we're looking for. Okay. Back into the calendar node, same thing as last time. Start, end, attendees. Nice. Description and summary. Awesome. And that's that. I'm not going to test it because there's no actual data here. So it's just going to be like, it's just not going to work. So we're going to do another set node here. And we're going to do response. And actually, instead of doing sent, I want it to get me the URL of the event that it just created. So let me just do this. It's not going to work or do anything. Bad request, yeah. I'm trying to think, like, because what I want to do is I want it to output the URL to the event so I could just click on it. But I might have to add a different, like another tool for that, right? Like get an event or something. These are micro tasks, right? Like micro tools that we're creating here. So obviously that wasn't going to work. I'm going to clear that out. So for now, I'm just going to say, the event was created. I'm going to hop out, save. Actually, I need to rename this to create event. Awesome. Okay, so I think we got Google Drive. I'm going to skip Google Drive. It's the same concept. Like just grab, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to skip it. We're going to do it. Like, but it's the same, right? Like it's kind of like every little micro task that could be done, we're trying to package it up as a tool and giving it to the agent. Okay. Might need to update the prompt at some point. I'm just going to put this in here because I know what it's going to be. Cool. Next one would obviously be Drive, Google Drive. We're going to do create a file now. Let's just get a file. What am I doing? It should be up here. Create, get a shared drive. And maybe it's like a doc. Let's just create a file. Why not? All right, hopefully this will just be like a sign in, and it's not. Give me 2 seconds. All right, we are good to go. Got that in there. Obviously rename it. Cool. Okay, file content. We'll get to that in a second. File name, obviously, and then we could add some of this stuff. I'm going to do convert. Let's not. That's extra steps that we don't need to do right now. But you could obviously take this like many steps further in terms of like the detail and exactly what these nodes are going to output for you. But this is kind of just to show you, the process, right? Okay, so we have what we need. Copy, same thing, back to ChatGPT. I mean, I have a list of these already, but I want you to just kind of understand the process that I go through to get this stuff done. I actually don't need all of this. I just need true mode. Let's look just really quick. Okay, we need file content, we need file name, and that's it. Folder ID, where is it? Mode, list, drive, true, list, credentials. Okay. I don't see it here. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Going to just delete all of this and just say create a JSON package where query is the field and file content and file name are the parameters. What did I say? Stringify, only strings. Boom. Okay, that should work. It's not going to be a very long package here. I probably could have written it myself, but I honestly prefer not to. There's some editing things like the space, like this little tab space here, that like it's, I'd rather just not type it out myself. Just have ChatGPT do it right the first time. Okay, so we grab that. We're going to go add it back to this so we can just finish up with the nodes. Boom. OpenAI. Awesome. Again, we're going to need to stringify that. Nice. Should just separate it out for us. Cool. And pull this in here and pull the file name into here. Okay. I would honestly be a little bit shocked if this worked the first time, because the first time, it just it doesn't create a file. it doesn't like, you know, sometimes it works the first time, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time, it is not going to work the very first time. Anyway, what I'm doing is, again, I'm going to need to add another tool that will actually pull this file that we just created and output it back to the agent itself, or the agent can go and grab it. So I'm not gonna mess with that now, but that's something that you would probably want to do if you want to have it output like, hey, create a Google Doc, based on our proposal template, and send it to me, or send it to, my colleague. And so it's going to need to like create the doc, and then it's going to need to grab the URL of the doc, and then it's going to need to go and send it, right? So that's 3 different tools right there. Okay. Create document drive. Okay, awesome. So I think we have 3 tools, and maybe need one more here. The database will be easy because that's already set up for me. Update the database. Let's get into that. This one requires even fewer nodes, right? Like we genuinely just need like the Pinecone vector store, right? So Pinecone right here. Credential. I'm gonna go grab that API key. This one I can show you guys because it's not gonna expose me. Okay, save. Demo Pinecone. Cool. Save. Nice. And we are not retrieving, we are inserting. And we'll insert it into vector. That's cool. Because that's the one that I have. And if you were creating this like specifically, like I've talked to a bunch of people the past couple of weeks about different projects that they're working on, or different projects that they would like us to build. And a pretty popular one is, the client success agent that I mentioned in some previous videos. And the way that we set it up is like, you still have one vector database, but each client has their own namespace. And then each agent that is connected with that client only accesses that namespace. So if I were going to do that in this case, I would just make that clear, right? Client name, right? Assuming that I had already created that namespace in Pinecone. So we don't have to do that today. Actually, yes, we do, because this namespace is contacts data, or it's contacts. So yeah, we had to do that anyway. So there you go. It's only going to get added to that namespace. All right. Embedding. We use OpenAI. I mean, when we set up Pinecone, we did text embedding small, so we're going to do that here as well. Document. This is going to chunk it up for us, right? Make it possible to embed these and turn them into numbers. I guess we can keep this. I mean, for accuracy's sake, why not? Like the larger you do the numbers, the more accurate it gets when you're looking for exact information. Like if you're looking for, it depends. It depends how your data is structured, right? Like if you're looking for exact information, but it's cluttered up with other information that is somewhat related to it, then the model or the agent is going to get confused. But if it's like very clear, like well-structured data that's in there, like how I have my contacts, it's going to understand like what I'm talking about, essentially. Like even if it's reading a list of contacts, it'll know, oh, pull Devin's email, because it can read my name there. Tinkering with the database is a little bit of a process, and it really depends on what your data is, right? And how you want to break it up. And, there's so many questions to ask before you even get in there and do anything with it, right? So I'm just going to call that done, right? Set field done. Let the agent know. Fantastic. Okay, so we don't need to do any of the ChatGPT stuff. Literally, the data is going to come in through here, and it's going to store it in the vector store, the index that we created in that specific namespace. and then it's going to let the agent know that it just did that, right? And boom. Okay. So here are our tools, 5 tools right here. The other one is going to be like attached to the agent, so we don't have to create a whole workflow for it. But now we are on to put it all together, which is, the easy part, because it's just an agent, and once you give it the tools, it's really just all about the prompt. Like, it's how you prompt the agent. You can build the tools. The tools are somewhat simple to build. There's a little bit of technical that goes into it, but it really is about the prompt and making sure the agent knows exactly how to use its tools and what its job is and the context in which it works, right? And maybe some examples. So what I'm going to do is go to AI agent. Boom. I'm going to use the tools agent. And I'm actually going to define. So I have found that defining the input makes it so much better, because sometimes for one reason or another, it just breaks because there's data coming in. So, hopefully this will make sense. So I'm just going to say, like, maybe this won't work because I don't have this stuff attached. Let me attach a model really quick. Give it its brain. And then the tools we might not have to do. I'm just going to put M there. We'll say hello. It'll say, hey, what's going on? Oh, no tool. So the tools agent really wants to use tools, right? We're just going to throw chat input in there so it knows. Okay, cool. Now we are going to attach our tools. So we have 3 of them. What is it? Send email. Call this tool to send an email. The description is important because the description will kind of be loaded into the prompt for the agent, and it tells the agent what the tool is for, essentially, right? So call this tool to send an email. We're going to grab the workflow ID in a second. But now we're going to, the way that I've made this work, essentially, like reliably, where it works every single time, is specifying the input schema. This right here is the ultimate key. If you don't do this, then it'll work and you can find workarounds, but it will not be efficient and it's not going to be 100% of the time. So I always do specify input schema. Schema type is defined below. And then we're basically just going to grab the schema that we had from the tool, right? So let me rename this. Send email. And I'm going to show you guys, like, at the end what a full, like, version of this looks like, just so you kind of have a visual. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back into my send email. I'm going to grab this workflow ID. You can always find the workflow ID right here where it's like workflow/ID. It's essentially an ID. Go back. I need to name it. We're going to paste that in there. And I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and just grab the one that was for sending an email. So I believe it's this one. So we're going to grab this query string and we're going to paste it in there. Awesome. Okay, so this is set up. Beautiful. We're going to add another one. It's going to be our calendar one. Create event. Create event. Specify input schema. Define below. Let's go grab it. Right here. Stringified attendees. Come back. Boom. Awesome. Now we just need the ID and the description to create a calendar event. Okay, beautiful. Cool. Let's go back and grab that ID. This is so easy. The worst part about it is just clicking back and forth. But if that's the worst part about it, then, the world's about to change. Not to be hyperbolic or jump on the hype cycle, but it's hard to It's hard to think otherwise when you start seeing some of this stuff in action. Okay, now we need to add our other one. Update database. I feel like no, Google Drive. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because we did both. Update database. Workflow ID, specify input schema. Actually, we don't need to because this one, we don't need to specify the input schema because it could just go right into Pinecone. We're not structuring it prior to going into Pinecone. We're just throwing it in there. If you wanted to, you should probably add some nodes like prior to the Pinecone insert node that just like manipulate the data in one way or another, prune it, right? Maybe check it against some other database. I don't know. But you could do, I mean, you know, the world is your oyster because you can create custom tools inside of n8n. Like it's the ultimate hack. So we're going to grab that and back into here. I'm going through this quickly because you guys can always slow down the speed. And there's a lot of people who are, you know, kind of good at n8n or understand this stuff implicitly. And I know when I'm watching like tutorial videos, I kind of just, it's like I know how to get the API key. I know how to do the credentials and stuff. Just tell me like generally like tell me how to do it so I can go and hack away and figure it out myself. So that's what I'm trying to give you guys here. To update your database. I'm going to say if needed. If requested. The prompt matters. Like the way that you communicate with the agent matters a lot. Like it makes or break whether or not this thing works. Like you'll be like, man, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And it's literally because the prompt isn't dialed in the way it needs to be. Okay, cool. So we have our tools. Now we need one more. Sorry. Google Drive. Create document. Drive, I think I called it. Rename. Call this tool to create a document in Google Drive. We are going to specify this one, define below. Let's go back and grab it. It's not a lot, so don't matter. Okay. Sweet. We're just blowing through this, right? Now we need to grab that ID. Create document drive. Yeah, that's what I called it. Okay. Grab this ID right there. Nice. And boom. Awesome. Okay. So usually I would be like testing this like every step of the way, making sure that it's working. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's working. I hope I'm right. Vector store tool. So we're going to add the, I'm just going to call this database. So this is going to be the actual tool, or this is going to be the Pinecone. Try to talk and do this at the same time. To retrieve contact information like email addresses. Okay. Sometimes I'm going to pull this over here. Sometimes I like to make this like really large because like I said, the more I give it, the more accurate it is for stuff like this. When it's just like, you know, I just need accurate information. I need that exact thing. Just give it to me, right? Vector, namespace. So this was contacts. Actually, let me double check because I'm pretty sure it is contacts. Namespaces. It's contacts data. Okay. So I was right the last time when I did the upserting. So I'm going to go in there and fix that when I get a chance here. So we're going to add this embedding model here. Boom. Nice. And we are going to add just a GBT 4.0. I always use 4.0. Like, I just don't see a reason to use 3.5. I don't even see a reason to use Mini. The reasoning capabilities on Mini are terrible in my experience, so I just don't use it. Just going to try to use the best one that exists. I mean, the Claude ones are pretty good, but why make things more complicated? Okay, so I'm going to fix one thing here. I need to change this to context data. There we go. Okay. Cool. And then we need to rename this. Call it demo agent. Okay. And that's that. I mean, we should be good to go. I mean, the last thing realistically is the prompt. So this is how I would do it like super, super quickly, right? I'm going to take a screenshot. Screenshot's over my face right now. Put it into my prompt generator here. Boom. Generate a prompt for this agent based on the tools I've given it. So it should give me a pretty decent prompt. That's not going to require a ton of editing. I mean, this is honestly a demo run, so like I could just like type in a kind of a very bare bones prompt, but you'd be surprised. Like even a bare bones prompt is just not going to work sometimes. Even if it's like, super, super simple tools and actions it's supposed to take, it still just like won't work the way that, we want it to. So you can see this is based on our template, right? Objective, context, giving it context of the tools that it has, the what it needs to do, instructions, analyze user request, retrieve necessary information, prepare parameters, execute the action. And then it's telling it what the parameters are. Boom. See? And then giving me giving it some output requirements. So I'm going to copy that. Hop back in here, and we're going to do system messages or system message. I also am going to do return immediate steps because I like to see the log of what's happening. But anyway, I'm going to paste that in here, remove that little bottom piece that it always seems to add, and then remove this top piece. Okay. And we should be ready to go. All right, let's fire it away. Let's see if this thing works. Chat. Send an email to Andrew Lewis saying, is this working? It might come back to me and ask like, hey, you didn't give me a subject line, or you didn't give me a body or a message to send. So we'll see, because sometimes you have to really tell it, like, just generate the stuff. You have the ability. Just generate it. Yep, so the email has been sent. Fantastic. First thing it did was it obviously asked, what is Andrew's email, right? Pulled his email. And then did it again, I guess. Oh, it responded to the database. Got it. The database responded. Pulled my contact list here. So this contact list that I'm like scrolling through quickly, so you guys don't really see, is let me get off of that because that just seems like sketchy. Anyway, it just pulled like a batch, a chunk of that contact list. So it pulled it, and then it said, this is his email address, gave it back to the tool, and then it used the send email. You see how it gave us the query here? Nice and beautiful. And then the response sent, right? So that worked perfectly as expected. And let's go to all executions just to really peek behind the hood at the tool itself. So we're going to go to send email. Okay, so you can see like it sent it through, sent this testing. Is this working? It gave us the subject. That's awesome. This thing parsed it as expected. The data was inputted here. Obviously, there was no BCC or CC, so it doesn't matter. And then, the response node, exactly as we designed it to do, right? Now let's do something more complex. Let's say, because we don't have any retrieval tools, we're not going to be able to like create a document and then send that document, because I would need to create a tool that would grab the document that was just created. But we can do like a calendar. I'm just going to say like create a document called testing, then send an email to Stephen Lin saying, hey, buddy. Also, don't forget to schedule a meeting for me and Andrew for tomorrow at, we'll just do 10 p.m. just to make it easy. So multiple steps, right? Let's see if this thing can do it. I kind of want to see it in action. All right. So it's pulling it up. It's creating the document. It's grabbing Stephen Lin's email most likely. Creating an event didn't work. We're going to go check that out in a second. But here's what we got. The document has been created. Let me move this over. The document named testing has been created and email has been sent to Stephen Lind. However, there was an issue scheduling a meeting with Andrew Lewis for tomorrow at 10 p.m. Would you like me to try scheduling the meeting again? Okay, so that didn't work for some reason. Let me go check exactly what happened. If you want to check, by the way, quick tip. If you want to check, like let's say you're testing at your agent and a tool doesn't work, you can't go and look at the executions in this like agent workflow. You have to go to like all executions or the specific like executions for the tool. So like go to the tool and see it. Okay. It says it all succeeded. Create an event. Is this what we're looking for? Yeah, probably. All right, let's just see. I don't know if this is it. Let's see. Bad parameters is probably this right here. Or maybe this. Oh, wait, what? No start date because I didn't give it a start date. Wait, I did. I said tomorrow at 10 p.m. Oh, no, this is from earlier. What am I doing? Let's go back. All right, let's try tomorrow at 10 p.m. With. Okay, let's see. We're just going to test that one tool. Okay, that didn't work. Let's see what happened. Workflow does not exist. The workflow ID must be wrong. I guess I missed something there. Create event. Oh, I'm missing an N. You see that? That N. I bet one of y'all caught that earlier. So that's why it didn't show up in executions, because it didn't even go all the way over there. Boom. All right, so now it should work. One more time. Create an event for tomorrow at 10 p.m. with Andrew Lewis. Okay. Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, I guess I'm going to have to, I want to go see, but I'm going to have to like blur some things really quick. Okay, so tomorrow at 10 p.m. Oh, it created it for Sunday, 7 to 8 p.m. And it did that because I didn't tell it what today was. That's why. That's funny. Okay. So you can see it's all in the prompt. It's literally all in the prompt. Like if you set up your tools and the tools are operating correctly and it's just like doing just things just a little bit wrong, I'm telling you, it is 99% most likely that the issue is in the prompt, which is why having a good prompt template is extremely important. But yeah, I mean, that's an agent. I think we built it in a little bit less than an hour, a little bit tedious, but that's just part of the process. But once you understand, like, you know, you have to, in order to get it to work every time, you have to tell the tool which parameters to output, right? Like you have to define the output. That's like the main lesson here. Define this. Because if you don't define it, it's going to be like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes it does, like, if I want to send an email, it's going to do like recipient address. And then the next time it'll be like to address or recipient email address, right? So it changes the name every time. And we don't want it to do that. It needs to be reliable, do the same thing every time when it's using these tools. And when we create these tools in a micro fashion like this, we allow it to just do multiple different things rather than connecting an entire workflow to it. What we're doing is giving it the tools that it needs to do that entire workflow, right? And the agent will figure out which steps need to be taken. It also helps when you give it really good instructions. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. So let me just show you like what like a full-fledged tool might look like an email tool. So if you watch one of my earlier videos, I showed off a personal agent that had an email actions tool connected to it. And that email actions tool had all these things, right? I'm replacing that now with an email agent and having like this trigger be that, called by, being called by another workflow, right? And that workflow will be my personal agent. And my personal agent, every time it needs to take an email action, will call this email agent here, right? And this email agent has every email action that could be taken. Send an email, reply to an email, add a label, create a label, delete a draft, trash a thread, reply to a thread. And then what I did also is be like some of these, like if I were to delete a draft, I need the draft ID, right? Like if you go into here, let's do Gmail. And let's do delete a draft. You'll see that the only parameter here is draft ID. And the only way to get draft ID is to, like search a draft, basically, like get a draft or get many drafts, return, however many, add in some, filters, I guess, not necessarily here, but return your drafts and then have an AI node understand which draft you're talking about, grab that ID, give it back to the tool. The tool uses that ID to then go and delete that draft, right? Step by step by step by step. So I have 4 like retrieves. So like retrieve message, retrieve thread, retrieve label, retrieve draft. And then all of the actions are like, these are message actions. These are label actions. These are draft actions. And these are thread actions. And then this is obviously like the contact information, right? The vector store. But yeah, this is our email agent. And like now I can just copy and paste this to any agent that is going to have to take email actions at any point, and it should plug right in. Obviously, we're going to have to do some switching, right? Like if you look at this list over here, every single tool, the hammer and wrench, every single tool, like there's a lot. But like let's say I did like get message. Same thing, right? Parsing it, putting it in there, response. Super easy. Delete email. Parsing it, putting it in there, response. Right? Now let's do a little bit more complicated one. Retrieving draft IDs to be used. So this comes in. We're basically taking this right here, the chat input. So like the input from the user. And we need to do that because we need it to understand like which draft we're talking about exactly. And then we're obviously manipulating the data a little bit. And then this node is figuring out which draft I'm talking about that needs to be deleted. And it's grabbing the ID only. It's only outputting the ID. And then the response node is this is going to be the actual ID, right? And then the tool will use that ID to go and delete the draft, right? So yeah, I mean, if you take an iterative approach, a bottom-up approach, a tools, not workflows approach, you can build pretty powerful agents that have access to entire platforms. Like this email one has access to email, essentially. Like it can do email now. And I want to create, we have a calendar one. We want to create a HubSpot one, but HubSpot has a lot. So it would be like a very robust tool that we might need to just break down into multiple different tools, just depending on different buckets. And we want to create a Trello one. A Slack one would be cool, but they have a lot as well, a lot of scopes in their APIs. But there's a lot you can do, basically. Like if you define the input, the tool is going to work almost 100% of the time. And then it's just building from there. It's really making sure that your data and your prompts are squared away. And if they are squared away and you built your tools right, which are easy to do, as you can see, then you have an AI agent. And then you can build multiple. And then you can build them on top of each other and have them talk to each other and interact. And all of a sudden you have an autonomous business, right? Which is going to come out of nowhere. It's going to happen slowly. And all of a sudden you realize all you're doing as a human is just strategizing, planning, listing out tasks, and then just like pushing it to the agents, and they're going, right? The people that I work with who are not only the easiest to work with, but get the most out of it working with agents are extremely organized on the exact tasks that need to get done in their business. In the past, if you're hiring a person, you can rely on that person to kind of like fill in any gaps that you have at times. That can still happen with agents, but obviously it's not the same as with like a person. Like you can hold a person accountable a little bit more, right, than you can with agents. But if you're organized about the tasks that need to be done, the workflows that you have, and a little bit on the instructions on what needs to happen, then you can run your entire business on agents today, for the most part, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All I had at the end of this little deck here was put it all together. But that was like a really quick personal AI agent, and you can keep adding tools and keep making it better. But I'm going to stop rambling. It's been a few days before since I posted the last video. Had to get a new computer because the old one was making the video super, super choppy. And I didn't like it. And I know some of y'all didn't like it. So hopefully this is going to be better quality overall. But yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. That's about it.